Today is February the 10th, and we'll begin to look at Deborah's song of the victory of Israel over Jabin. How did they defeat Jabin? Let's find out together. So chapter 4 of the book of Judges tells us that Israel defeated a huge enemy army. Outnumbered, resourced, Israel won. How? We're not told. But as we begin to read Deborah's song, we find out how. Verses 2 and 3 simply tell us to listen to the song. Israel's leaders took charge and the people gladly followed. Praise the Lord. Listen, you kings, pay attention, you mighty rulers, for I'll sing to the Lord, I'll make music to the Lord, the God of Israel. Deborah begins her song, and as she begins her song, she starts telling us, answering some of the questions that we had. How did Israel win? Verse 4, Lord, when you set out from Seir and marched across the fields of Edom, the earth trembled, the cloudy skies poured down rain, the mountains quaked in the presence of the Lord, the God of Mount Sinai, in the presence of the Lord, the God of Israel. We're told one element of the battle was God went ahead of Israel's army and reigned. And it was not a small rain, it was a huge rain. The mountains trembled from the thunder. In fact, later in verse 21, the Kishon River swept them away, Deborah says. How do you fight against iron chariots? You put them in a plain in the middle of a rainstorm. The ground becomes muddy, the heavy chariots sink, and suddenly your state-of-the-art weaponry is absolutely and completely neutralized. The Lord sent rain. He stopped the chariots in their tracks. This is why Sisera's army, or Sisera, ran away on foot, because his chariot couldn't move. Deborah goes on. Verse 6, in the days of Shamgar, son of Anath, in the days of Jael, people avoided the main roads. Travelers stayed on winding pathways. There were few people left in the villages of Israel until Deborah arose as a mother for Israel. These two verses tells us what happens after Shamgar and before Deborah and Barak. Verse 7 says, it starts with a phrase that's difficult to translate. It literally says, the villages of the sons of Israel ceased. What does that mean? It could mean one of several things. The way the New Living Translation translates it, there were few people left in the villages of Israel. Other translations say the villages were deserted. They were conquered by Jabin and the people left. Another translation, the NIV, says the villages refused to fight. They stopped resisting. No matter what the meaning, it's obvious here that what Deborah is saying is that there was no one to stand against Jabin, whether the villages were empty or simply didn't want to fight. They did not resist Jabin until Deborah arose as a mother for Israel. When Deborah comes on the scene, She rallies the troops, and Israel goes out to fight. In the next section, verses 8 and 9, when Israel chose new gods, war erupted at the city gates, yet not a shield or a spear could be seen among 40,000 warriors in Israel. My heart is with the commanders of Israel, those who volunteered for war. Praise the Lord. Now, two things were told here. One, it wasn't just the 10,000 of Zebulun and Naphtali. There were 40,000 who went out, another 30,000 from other tribes. And yet, they did not have shields and spears. They were not a standing army. They were farmers who came to fight for their land. In the verses that come, we're told who it is who comes to fight. We'll see that tomorrow. Today it's enough to know that part of the answer to how, God went ahead, reigned, and neutralized the chariots. And then the 10,000 soldiers of Zebulun and Naphtali joined with 30,000 other warriors to defeat the 20,000 warriors of Sisera's army. Now, the interesting thing to me is that when the author of Judges records this, he is not nearly as interested in the question, how did the victory come about, as he is in the question, what happened? Israel won. And who was there? The answer to the question, who? God and Deborah. Today, in whatever you're facing, don't worry about the how. Let God take care of the how. He may choose to bring resources that you knew nothing about. Worry about the what. What is it that needs to take place? Show that to God. Worry about the who. God and you and maybe somebody else. Take the what and the who to the Lord in prayer and let Him resolve the battle that you find yourself in. If you like what you heard today, please go to whatever program you use to listen to this presentation. Like, follow, or subscribe, and share with your friends. If you have any questions, send them to questions@becomehope.com. Tomorrow, we'll look at who came to the party.